So if you're not familiar with what happened last year with the Super Bowl, let me just briefly explain what happened on Super Bowl 57. The players were very disappointed and upset, I guess, about the field conditions. The field looked fine on TV, I'm sure. Probably looked fine to the players, I guess, when they went out there and practiced on it, I suppose. I don't know. But the field didn't maintain its performance. It didn't perform well. And the players were sliding all over the place. It was very, I don't want to say it was dangerous, but it was not up to standards with professional fields. And I went over it about a week ago or 2 weeks ago. I can't remember. I went over a little article about that was posted on ESPN about the conditions of the field. I had not really heard much about why it happened, but I don't really look into this stuff. You guys probably already knew all about this stuff. Who knows? I didn't know anything about it. I do other things, and I don't really look around the internet for stuff like that. But I found that last article a couple weeks ago, and I went over it. And it'll be posted as a separate video here shortly on my channel. But when I read that article, I went over it on my channel, I decided to kind of look into it a little further to see if there's anything more about what was said about the field. And I found an article. So it's hilarious. To me, it's funny. So we're going to go over that right now. So the article was posted on USA Today last year, February 28, 2023, and the title of the article is "The Sod Father, George Toma, Explains Why Super Bowl 57 Field Was So Slippery." So for those who might not know who George Toma is, George Toma is I've never met George. I don't know him. I would, I know what he looks like, but I've never met him. And he's been involved with the NFL for decades and decades and decades. He's been in the turfgrass business for 70 or 80 years. He's 95, I think, as of this year, 2024. I think he's around 94, 95 years old. As far as I know, he's retired now. I don't know. But he's been around the Super Bowl probably more than any turf manager, maybe more than any person. I don't know. But he's very experienced when it comes to the turf grass and the Super Bowl and players' expectations and all these things. So the article is called "The Sod Father, George Toma Explains Why Super Bowl Field 57 Was So Slippery." So I was like, okay, well, I'll read this. So here we go. The Sod Father has spoken. George Toma, the longtime groundskeeper who has prepared and then consulted the NFL for every Super Bowl field, said this year's field at the State Farm Stadium was overwatered and that the issues at Super Bowl 57 were entirely preventable. During the game, an eventual 38-35 Kansas City Chiefs victory over the Philadelphia Eagles, players slipped on the grass surface of the stadium in Glendale, Arizona, often chewing up chunks of sod. At least half a dozen Eagles players switched cleats during the first half in an attempt to get a better grip, including quarterback Jalen Hurts, who changed from Jordan 11 cleats to Jordan 1 cleats. I'm not particularly concerned or worried about players changing cleats. This happens all the time. They go out, they practice. They might change their cleats between practice and the game. They might change their cleats in the middle of the game, trying to get better traction if they find that their cleats aren't giving them the traction they want. That's very common. I'm not overly concerned about that. But, you're just saying that's what happened there. In 2001, the Pro Football Hall of Fame presented Toma, known as the Sod Father and God of Sod, with the Pioneer Award for innovative contributions to professional football. So that doesn't happen very much in the turfgrass industry. The Pro Football Hall of Fame gives you an award. I don't know how many people have got something like that, but I don't imagine it's more than maybe one. So, he's well experienced. What did George Toma say about why the Super Bowl 57 field was so slippery? In an interview with ESPN, Toma said the field was watered the Wednesday morning before the game, which took place on Sunday, February 12th. After watering, the field was then immediately rolled into the stadium using the hydraulic system that allows the turf to catch sun. It's a weird way to word that, but whatever. Toma's belief was that the field should have remained in the sun Wednesday morning to dry out before being rolled in, advice that the NFL field director Ed Mangan did not heed. Now, you're going to find here that Toma is not very flattering at all to Mangan. So these guys, I don't know the history there. You guys probably know it more well than I do. I don't know anything about it. But clearly, there's some friction here, okay? So what he does, he waters the hell out of it and puts it right into the stadium, and that's it, Toma told ESPN. Never sees sunlight again. He can't do that. That's Toma talking about Mangan, what he did. It's throwing someone under the bus pretty bad. Now, if he did something wrong, then so be it. But, I mean, he's clearly not defending Mangan's actions. So we continue. Toma added that a tarp was laid over the field to protect it from rehearsals for the pregame and halftime shows. Toma said he was told in the lead up to the game that the field was starting to decay. It had a rotten smell, Toma said. So if you remember last week's article, or whatever it was, went over the Super Bowl article a couple weeks ago, it was an anonymous source. It said a source told ESPN, it didn't say who the source was. So now obviously this is very similar to the language that was used in that anonymous, tipster last article I went over. And it's very similar language. So I'm wondering if George was communicating with ESPN on that topic. But I don't know. Were there any other issues with the field at Super Bowl 57? Toma also told ESPN that Mangan did not allow the field to be sanded enough, a process that encourages efficient drainage. He sanded it 2 weeks too late, Toma said. He had only one sanding. He should have had 2 or 3 sandings, but he didn't do blank. He didn't do S, basically, didn't do expletive. And that was it. And not only that, he didn't take care of it. He wouldn't listen to anybody. This is George Toma talking about Ed Mangan. Okay. So he only sanded it once. He should have sanded it 2 or 3 times, and he didn't do blank. He wouldn't listen to anybody. That's amazing that they would say these things to ESPN. What did Eagles players have to say about the field condition at Super Bowl 57? Eagles offensive lineman Jordan Mailata, I don't remember that name. Name doesn't sound familiar. Offensive lineman Jordan Mailata, who said he's not a grass expert, described the conditions as pretty slippery, similar to playing on a water park. While the Eagles players were quick to stress the field condition was not the reason why they lost, they did indicate that it was something they had to account for. I changed my cleats, and right before the second half wore the different ones, Philadelphia's tight end Dallas Goedert said after the game. The second half, the field was tearing up a little bit. Once again, we're playing on the same field as the Chiefs. So, I mean, that's really the way to look. I mean, it's unfortunate the field was that way, but both teams played on the same field. What are you going to do, Now, here we go. Did the NFL say anything about the field conditions at Super Bowl 57? The State Farm Stadium field surface met the required standards for the maintenance of natural surfaces as per NFL policy, the league said in a statement the day after the game. The natural grass surface was tested throughout the Super Bowl week and was in compliance with all mandatory NFL practices. Well, clearly, the mandatory NFL practices need to be amended, if that's the case. Everybody on TV and all the players, I'm exaggerating, but basically there's a huge percentage of people who recognize the field was clearly causing a problem, but it fell within NFL standards. Well, clearly there's something needs to be added to the NFL standards if that field meets the standards of the NFL. What is next for George Toma after Super Bowl 57? According to ESPN, Toma has retired after more than 80 years in groundskeeping, with Super Bowl 57 being the last. This next paragraph is hilarious. I can't take it anymore, Toma told ESPN. While adding that he's not pleased with how the league has responded to the field issues in the past. Me and the league are finished. They can't tell me what to do anymore. We're done. That is one upset groundskeeper. This was last year. I wonder if he's cooled off since then. I don't know George Toma, but I'd love to have him on here and talk to him about it. I know he was on a podcast maybe 9 or 10 months ago with some guys. I don't know if it was ESPN or somebody else. I don't know who it was. And he wasn't quiet. That's for sure. I mean, he let his opinion go. I mean, when you're 95 years old and you've seen basically everything there is to see, you know, I guess your attitude is, F it, we're out. This is my opinion. You like it or don't like it. So, I just got a kick out of that. We're finished. Can't take it anymore. Can you imagine how frustrated he might have been at the time? I don't know what he said before the game. Like, I wonder whether or not he actually said something to the groundskeepers. And I mean, he said that he wouldn't listen to anybody. So I infer from that he was vocal about the conditions of the field, but it doesn't say anything in here. Like, I was telling him he should do this. I was telling him that, you know, I recognized there was a problem, and I let the people know there was a problem. I didn't see anything like that in here. But I'm wondering if indeed that happened, or if prior to the game going on, he was on record as saying, yeah, everything looks fine. I mean, it's easy to sit here after the fact and bash people, right? But beforehand, you know, is the field safe? Did they make it known to the NFL or to, you know, whoever it might be, that the field conditions need work? It's not safe on Monday or Tuesday before the game, Wednesday before the game. You know, there's whatever the case is. I don't know. I just thought that article was funny.